Hello, I'm Joseph Evans. This is another one of my projects. So this was actually the first proper programming project that we did in university, of course in the first year. And it's quite an interesting one. Of course it's pretty simple, and a lot of it isn't really done properly. It's sort of bodged together a bit. But I really didn't know what I was doing. I had to learn so much about programming and using UI design and buttons and event handlers and things. So let's get into it. So what did we actually have to do? We sort of had a specification. We had to create a simple app, and it had this interesting twist that it had to be designed for children. So that sort of came into the design quite a bit. It's sort of based around that whole design for children thing. It had to include a web browser, Notepad, and a calculator, and those are all implemented. And yes, I did draw all the icons myself. I sort of wanted to have like a Notepad aesthetic, like a sort of like drawn user interface. We've got some Comic Sans, and it doesn't look too bad. The drawings aren't great. They do look like a child drew them, but in reality that's just sort of the extent of my ability to draw at the time. So this was created in Visual Studio. They expected us to use Windows Forms, but I got confused. Sort of, Visual Studio is quite a confusing thing at the end of the day, and quite a lot of information. I actually made a universal Windows platform application instead, which made the project a lot more interesting, considering we hadn't done any programming before really. Documentation was a lot more complex, and there weren't as many sort of answers on things. It was quite a new thing at the time. It's a few years ago. So yeah, it's interesting though. I did get pretty lost, to be honest, until I found some great YouTube tutorials, and really walked me through what it was and what the sort of languages were. So I learnt to use XAML, which is sort of like a HTML tag-based language, which is really cool. I really like it a lot, and I've used it in quite a couple of my projects. And of course, C# is the sort of the behind-the-scenes programming. So let's get into it. Of course, this was my first project. It's not very good, but definitely interesting. So let's start off with the web browser. Click on the button, opens up. Yeah, so at the top we've got our nav bar up here. It directs directly to Google at the start, which is nice. We can go up here, we can replace it with Bing. There we go. Just press enter and it works. Yeah, there we go. What do you say? Ducks. Of course. And it all works. Go right on there, but it's all sort of the components are sort of just provided by the Windows architecture, really. But you got to set up all these buttons and things. You go back and forwards, reload the page, all things like that. And it works quite well. We can't right click, well, besides the default sort of Microsoft thing. So there's not too much functionality here. We do sort of have this help thing, because of course it's sort of designed for children. We sort of want them to might not know, we've never seen this thing before, so never seen a URL before. So that's there, and yeah, it works pretty well. The next application on the program is the Notepad, and this is one of the most complex features, and it's a little bit buggy, but yeah, I was quite happy with it at the time. So we can actually open files. It's all a rich text format, so we can do colour and text size and things. You can see it imported our document, we can open up a color picker, which is pretty interesting because I don't think you can do this on Windows Forms. This is sort of like a default Windows thing for the Windows Universal Platform. So I think I'm one of the only people who had my own color picker. I think we just change that, and we can see the Notepad changes colour, so you know what colour you're working with. You can write some more text. Let's change it to blue. Very nice. Very nice. And we can also change the size of the font. I should have implemented a way to check what font size you're using, but I didn't. You just sort of press enter, and then type what you want. And you can undo, you can redo, and save it. Let's override that. Oh, never mind, it's already open, isn't it? Yes, again, it's not really. There's no save current document feature. Save a new one. So that's that. And the final app is the calculator. So it looks a bit strange. It's a very simple design. You've got these radial buttons that let you choose your operation. So you can type in a number here, add a second one here, and it just does it immediately. It's just constantly checking for changes. And you can use this button or press enter and just keep adding more numbers on if you want to keep a list. And you've got a button to clear here as well. And they all work. We're using doubles here, I think. So yeah, nice and simple, but it's quite fast to use. Yeah, good for like keeping like a tally going. Let's keep on adding. Yeah, and that's sort of the end of the app. So very simple. Again, one of my first projects, but a lot of fun and a real learning experience. I know there's a lot of frustration at parts, but I got through it, and I learned so much about programming and just the basics, really. And let's just take a look at the project in Visual Studio. So you can see it's a universal Windows. So you could sort of deploy it on a phone, one of those Windows phones, or any Windows apps. And yeah, it's pretty interesting here when they sort of you design it. This is XAML, and you use grids here. There's awesome like stack panel things. Makes it so easy. I really like these stack panels. It just sort of stacks things horizontally there. So I learned how to use all this. I wrote it in XAML instead of like using the editor, and just use this for sort of a visual reference. Where's my... Let's go to the calculator code. You can see it's all very simple stuff. Not really too complex. And the bits that are like complex, like file systems and things, all taken from online sources. Check how to do it, because it could be quite complex when you sort of need to write something like this when you're first starting out. Sort of anonymous function and things. Yeah, it's a very interesting project. One of the first ones. And this is one of the ones that really got me interested in programming. And that's that.